But first, obviously you know the national anthem. We are one and free, but increasingly we're divided and out of pocket. I suspect most Australians have never heard of an Indigenous protection area. It's a piece of once public land that the government has given over to Indigenous people to manage. There are currently 87 Indigenous protected areas covering 90 million hectares of land across Australia. One of those Indigenous protected areas is the picturesque Middle Beach near Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory. Now, it came to our notice when someone posted online a photograph of the sign that beachgoers see when they arrive for a bit of sunbaking and a dip in the blue water there. Have a look at this. Here's the sign that confronts Aussies when they arrive at this beach. It says, Indigenous Protected Area. You are entering a developmental recreational area on private lands. A Dhimurru Visitor Access Permit is required to enter. Now, to get a permit, you have to go to the local Aboriginal Corporation website where they offer their fellow Australians a permit to go to the beach, but for a price. Here's what it's going to cost you to go to a once public beach in the Northern Territory. If you want to go as a family, it's $207 for the year. As an individual, $108 for the year. The Aboriginal Corporation will charge you $89 for a 1 month visitor pass, $57 for 2 weeks, or $39 if you just fancy 3 days on the beach. So here's how this works. This is once public land. It's given to an Indigenous organisation along with public money so they can turn it into a private piece of land that then they charge the public even more money to access a place that they used to access for free. Joe, make it make sense.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what is going on here, but Arnhem Land has always been a restricted area. Arnhem Land has always been a place where you couldn't go unless you got prior approval from the traditional owners, and I've spent a lot of time in Kakadu, which it is adjacent to, and there is a very famous sort of bit of river, the East Alligator River, and if you've got a permit, you drive back and forth over the causeway, and if you don't, the crocs eat you. So I imagine it is just part of this, but I just have to read this part of what the woman said about her indignation about not being able to go there.
This is the woman who posted the photograph. This is the woman who made the post.
She says, "Looks like a great place to swim. Let's go." I wouldn't do that if I were you. This is crocodile-infested water, including the seas, including the bay. So there is absolutely no way that you should go swimming in any of these beaches ever, and not unless you throw a dog in there first, and that is also animal cruelty. So,
but if that's the issue, then you just have a sign saying crocodiles don't enter the water, but that's not really the point here.
Maybe that's what they tell you when you go and get your permit. So I don't know if this is somewhere where people recently have been able to go swimming before and then suddenly they rock up and it's fenced off. But if it's in Arnhem Land, I think that would always be the case. And anyone who is planning to swim in a beach on the Northern Territory has rocks in their head and clearly doesn't know anything about how the joint actually works or who actually is in charge.
Nevertheless, but you can pay a fee before being eaten alive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Maybe they say, look, here's
it adds to the exclusivity.
That's right. Once they give you the receipt and take the $200 and say, oh, by the way, you know you can't go swimming.
Just take a few photos and leave, please.
Right.
But this was quite an education for me, as I'm sure it will be for you, because there's 3 different organisations that give out permits over various areas of the Northern Territory. So it's not these guys only who are making bank. There's also the Northern Land Council and the Anindiliyawakwa Land Council. So these are different kinds of permits for different kinds of places. Some of them pertain to the very roads you might need to travel on in order to get where you're going. So it may be that if you're visiting the Northern Territory, you may need 1, 2, or even 3 different kinds of permits. I did not know this. I knew that we had native land title for over 40% of our land mass here in Australia. That's enough to blow your mind. But the fact that in the Northern Territory, they have these exclusive areas where it's literally
But these are not just relating to the Northern Territory.
And you cannot enter unless you have these permits. And the fines are extortionate. They're over $10,000 if, in fact, you are found to be on one of these plots without carrying a permit, which totally would have been.
There are plenty of places in Australia you're not allowed to enter without a permit. or without paying some money. A movie cinema is one of them.